Hey everyone, it's Miss Surrett. So this past week we have been talking about different relationships that occur in ecosystems. Now let's talk about competition that occurs among species and how human activities can affect the environment. In our ecosystems, we have biotic and abiotic factors. Biotic factors are just anything that is living or was once living, so that would be like your animals and your plants. Abiotic factors are factors that are non-living, and those would be things like temperature, water, sunlight, and wind. When these factors are in short supply, it actually limits the growth of populations, and we call these limiting factors. These limiting factors determine an environment's carrying capacity, which means the maximum number of individuals of a species that an environment can support. When resources are limited, you will see competition among species or maybe between different species, and they will compete for things that they need to survive, like food and water and shelter. Sometimes a new species will come in and actually outcompete all the other species and become a top predator. This is actually a really big problem in the Florida Everglades. Have you heard of this species? It's the Burmese python. This species is actually native to southern China and India, but some people in Florida decided to buy these as pets, and once they got too big, they decided to release them into the wild where they rapidly reproduced, and now there is a big Burmese python population in the Florida Everglades. These pythons will go after just about anything for a food source, including humans, and they have even been known to kill alligators. You can see why there's such a problem. And now why don't you take a moment to just pause the video and get these terms written into your EN. So based on those factors that species need to survive, they are going to adapt accordingly. And by adapting, that means that the organism will become better suited to its environment. The long necks of giraffes are actually an adaptation that allow it to reach the high branches on trees so that it can eat. So let's say we have a population of short-necked giraffes and long-necked giraffes. Now what's going to happen is the giraffes with the long necks are going to be able to get to their food source easier. So they have a better rate of survival, and they are going to reproduce more than the giraffes with the short neck. So eventually the giraffes with the long neck, they are going to reproduce more, and then they will overpopulate the short neck giraffes, and eventually they will die out. We call this survival of the fittest, and that means that those organisms that are best adapted are going to survive and pass on their traits to their offspring. Humans also play a big role in our ecosystems, and in this video we are specifically going to talk about how humans affect the ocean. What you see in this picture is an airplane at the bottom of the ocean. And this is actually a positive effect because this plane is serving as an artificial reef. So that just means that it's obviously not a real reef. But as you can see, there is plant growth on the plane, and it's serving as shelter for many different species of fish. So it's actually providing them the resources that they need. Unfortunately, there are many negative effects that humans have on the ocean, and cruise ships are one of them. Cruise ships often dump their sewage into the ocean, and although they try to do it away from shore, it often gets washed towards shore, and it can affect the health of the organisms that are living there. Oil spills are a very negative effect that human activity has on the ocean, and as you can see, it definitely harms the wildlife. So be prepared to go into this in a little more detail this week, and that is a wrap.